We're now beginning this seminar on the 7th chapter of the book of Micah. Wait upon the Lord. The first part of the book of Micah, the 7th chapter, is a time of distress. And it goes all the way through until the 13th chapter, where it turns into a type of hope. And it begins, Emi oti eganithi os synagogue, one gathering, is a synagogue, is the English derivative, kalamin, in amito, ke os epiphilida, and trigito, uk eparchontes votrios, to phagin. Emi, alas, for I became as one gathering stubble in a harvest. In is preposition the same as in English, and as one gathering grape gleaning. So he's as one that's in straits, having problems. Things aren't going right. And because of there not being a gathering, and he was just gathering stubble to eat, a cluster of grapes to eat. Protogona, the first ripe grapes. Epepothison e psyche mu, me psyche, which my soul longs after, the psyche. We have a psyche, psychology, or the mind. Woe, O soul, psyche. Oti apololin, evlavis, apotis gis, ke katorthon in anthropis. We have 444, men, anthropis, anthropology, the study of man. There does not exist eparchy, one keeping straight among men. Pontus is imata dikazonte, all educate unto blood. Hema, globen, hyma, ima, for blood. Pan, all, pandemic, is the English derivatives, all educate unto blood. So there not only are things bad as far as the ground goes, the economy, it's also problems with people's attitudes. They're at each other's throats, more or less. Ekastos ton plesion avtu ekthlivusin ekthlipsi. Each squeezes out his neighbor by oppression. Verse 3, it continues, Epito kakon tas hiras avton etimazusin. O archon, it ke o kritis irinikus logus elalase, katathemion psychis avtu estin. For 1, they prepare 2, their hands for evil. 3 and 4, kakon, hand, evil, kakon, hands, chiropractor, the chiro, hieros, comes from that. The ruler, archon, the archon is a magistrate, an archon. The ruler asks for gifts, and the kritis, we have the word critic, the judge, that's where it comes from, speaks peaceable words. Irenikus, Irene is a word for peace. Words for bribes I put in there because it's pretty much evident from the context. And 1, it katathemion psychis avtu estin. It is the wish of his psychis, of his soul or his mind. 7:4, ke ego exolume ta agatha avton osis. Ek trogon ke vadizon epi kanonos in imera scopias, ue ekdikisi su, ikasen nin esonte klavthmi avton. In verse 4 it says, and I, the ego is the English derivative, I will take out their good things as a moth. And you can see now these purplish, reddish colored, bright colored words are all nouns that appear in this verse, and they're nouns that don't have articles. And if it doesn't have an article, then you can put an a or an and. There's no indefinite article in Greek, but it's implied pretty much. So you can see here with as a moth, I added an a moth, choose away. And one proceeding by kanonos, a rule, the canon, church canon, comes from this word. And you can see there that I added the rule. In ephemeral, as being the derivative, a day, or the day, of the watch, skopios, scope, something to do with watching. And all of these thes I added. It could be you could put by a rule in a day of a watch. Maybe I will put that in the second edition. And woe, your punishments came. Now there shall be there, I made a line through the weeping, it's actually plural, weepings. And now there shall be their weepings. So these people are going to be punished by God. In verse 5 it continues, me katapistevate in philis, me alpizate epi igumenes, apoti synkitu su, philaxe to me anastheste ti afti. So now, not only the punishment, not only are the problems with the judges and the rulers being corrupt and the land being damaged, but even the people, the friends and relatives are going to fail you. And it more or less is bringing that up here in 5. Do not confide in philis. Philis, friend, is, we have the word Philadelphia. It's a city of friendly brothers, more or less. Do not hope upon igumenes, hegemony, leaders, apo, of your bedmate. Watch out to not present anything to her. So even your wife, your spouse, you can't trust, and there's going to be problems with this. For the families are going to not even be like they normally would. In verse 6 it continues, Theoti eos atimazi patera, thigatir epanastisate epi tin mitera aftes, nymphi epi tin pantheron aftes, ek 3 pontus e andres e ento eco aftu. For a son, I added the there. For it could be a son dishonors a father. I might change that one. A daughter rises up against the mother. The patera here we have pater, father, and thigatir is a very similar in daughter. The spelling with the ug rises up against her mother. Mitera, the meteor. Nymphi is daughter-in-law, and the English derivative was nymph is an immature stage of insects, the immaturity being the thing that's the same or in common with it. The daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. Enemies all, the men, the ones in his own house. And here we have Matthew 10:35. It says, Jesus says, for I came to cleave a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And the enemies of a man are the ones of his own house. So Jesus is alluding to this verse right here in Micah. In verse 7 it continues, Ego the epi ton kyrion mu epi vlepsome, ipomeno epi to kyrio to sotiri mu, Isakusate mu o theos mu. But I, ego, will look upon 2, 3, my Lord, Kyrion, the Kyrieleison is Lord. I will wait upon the Lord, my sotiri. Sotiri, deliverer. I used a deliverer instead of a savior, which the King James translators used. I like deliverer better because in the Old Testament, in the Greek especially, it doesn't allude to any type of salvation from going from death into eternity, or anything like that. So deliverer is the word that I choose for that. The Lord, my deliverer. And then it continues, my God, theos, theology is a derivative, study of God. My God will listen to me. So now Micah is taking a little pause here, and all these bad things are going to happen, he's saying, but I will look up upon my Lord. I will wait for the Lord, my deliverer. My God will listen to me. All these things may be happening to all these people and the land and conditions, but I'm looking at God. And then he continues in verse 8, Mi apihare mi iakthramu oti peptoka ke anastisonte, the oti ean kathiso entoskoti, kyrios photi mi. Rejoice not against me, O my enemy, for I have fallen, and I will rise up. For if I shall sit in the darkness, the Lord will give light to me. Scoti, we have a scotoma, is diminished vision. A scotoscope is a scope to view in the dark. I shall endure, in the dark, the Lord will give light to me. Photi is the verb. We have photic, pertaining to light, or photo. And then 7-9. Orgin Kyriou episo oti imarton avto eos tu dikeose avton tin dikin mu. Ke piisi to krima mu exoxi me isto phos opsome tin dikiasinin avtu. The anger, the orgin, we have this word orgin, argi is the English derivative. It has to do with the frenzy, more or less, of the Lord. I shall endure, for I sinned against him, until he does justice to my cause, and shall execute my judgment. He shall lead me into the phos, the noun for the verb, the phos, the light, phosphorus, light-bearing. I shall see his righteousness. Verse 10, Ke opsate e ekthramu, ke perivalite, iskinin, legus apros me, pu kyrios o theosu, e ophthalmimu epsonte. And my enemy shall see and shall wear shame. And these are all the purple, or the, again, words that don't have Greek articles. Up here, orgin and kyriou, I have the anger of the Lord, putting the in there, and it's in italics. Anyway, my enemy shall see and wear shame, saying to me, where is the Lord your God? So in this terrible time, the enemy is going to be striking out at believers, more or less. Where is your God? And but it continues, I ophthalmimu epopsonte, my ophthalmi, the eyes, ophthalmologist is an eye doctor, shall scrutinize her being the enemy above it agrees with the ending, aftin. Now she shall be for trampling upon as pilos entes odhes. And now the enemy will be for trampling upon as mud in the ways. The odhes, a cathode, ode, is a current in the ways, electric current. 7:11. Imera al lifis plinthu exalipsi su ke apostate nomi masu e imera ekini. A day of plastering of brick. is your wiping out, and your laws shall be thrust away in that day. As I mentioned before, the laws were taken away when Israel went into captivity between Nebuchadnezzar and the return, and also after the time of the Roman destruction of Jerusalem until today. There still is no true law as in the Levitical law with the sacrifices in the tabernacle and the temple. 7:12 Ke e polisu ixusin is omalismon, ke is diamerismon assyrion, ke e polisu e okire is diamerismon apotiru eos tu potamu, ke apo thalasis eos thalasis, ke apo orus eos orus. Your cities, polis, a metropolis, big city, shall come unto leveling. This is just a regular city, shall come unto leveling, the cities, and into partition of Assyrians, and your fortified cities for partition from Tyre unto the river, probably the Euphrates, and from sea unto sea, or could be the Jordan, sea unto sea, and from mountain unto mountain. So the cities are now going to be leveled. The land is going into desolation, more or less. In verse 13 it continues, Ke este igi is aphanismon, sintis katikusin aftin, apokarpon epitithev maton afton. And one, the land too will be for extinction with the ones dwelling in it, or dwelling it, because of the fruits of their practices. The carpon, fruit, carpo, is a word for that's used, carpogenous, producing fruit of a tree, let's say, and the fruits of their practices is the reason why their extinction is happening. Then verse 14, Pimene leon su in rabtho su, provata kleronomia su, kataskinuntas kathiaftus in drimo, in meso tu carmilu, nemisonte tin vasanitin, ketin galadhitin, kathos e imere to Ionos. Now it's changing here. I was mentioning earlier it was despair, and now it's going into hope. And it begins, tend your people with a rod. Sounds like a similar thing with the Messiah when he returns, of tending the people with a rod. Could have been when he came, Jesus came, and the sheep of your inheritance. It mentions the sheep being lost, and Jesus alludes to his being the one to bring them back, and the ones encamping by themselves in a forest. And when Jesus came, it was like the sheep were all scattered, and everybody was didn't have truth. The Pharisees, Sadducees were teaching falsehoods and putting burdens that they couldn't possibly carry out, that wasn't ever put into the scriptures originally. And so when Jesus came, it sort of sounds like this in verse 14. And then in the midst of Carmel, Mesopotamia, between the rivers, in the midst of Carmel, they shall feed Bashan, which is today Syria, and Gilead, which is today Jordan, according to the days of the Ionos. The Eon, Aeonos, is a direct transliteration. 15, Ke katatas imerestis exodias su, and according to the days of your exodus, of your departure. We have the English word exodus, and I should have highlighted that, 1840.3. Ex Giz Aegyptu, from the land of Egypt. Giz, geology. Dixo aftis thavmasta, I will show to them wonderful things. So God is going to do something in this time that Micah is talking about. He's going to do wonderful things, as he did when he led the children of Israel out of Egypt from a hopeless situation by an army that could overpower and kill them at any time that they want. And then 7:16 explains that opsonte ethni ke kataiskin thesonte ke ekpasis tis eskios avton Epithesonte hiras epito stoma afton, taota afton, apokophothisonte. Nations, ethnic is an English derivative. Nations shall see and shall be disgraced, even of all their strength. So these nations that are going to be at this time, many nations, they're going to have all this power, armies, maybe hydrogen bombs, nuclear bombs, missiles, satellites, everything that's in strength that should easily overcome this little nation. But it says, they shall place hands, hieros, over their mouth, stoma, stomach is a derivative for the food to go down into through the mouth. And their ears shall be deafened. They're not going to want to hear it. They're not going to know what to say. They're going to be flabbergasted. Verse 17, Lixus si hun os ophis sirontes gin, synchithisonte and synchlismo afton epi to kyrio theoimon extisonte ke phovithisonte apo su. They shall lick dust as serpents, dragging on the earth, or I scratch that out, I might change that to dragging earth or dragging ground, dirt. They shall be confounded in their confinement. Somehow God is going to tighten them up, and they're going to be groveling more or less at this time when they apparently come against Israel. By the Lord our God, Theo, they shall be amazed. Extisonte, ecstasy is the English derivative. And they shall phovithisonte, the phovi. We have fear, phobos, phobia. Comes from that. I should have highlighted 5399. They shall be in fear from you, and they will be amazed. Verse 18, it continues. Tis theosos persi exairon adikias ke hypervainon asavias, tis katalipis, tis kleronomias, aftu. Usinesken is martyrion orgin aftu, otithelitis elius estin. What God, Theos, is as you, removing iniquities and passing over impiety to the remnants of his inheritance. That's the key of his inheritance. Doesn't mean everybody, but the ones that are going to inherit the kingdom, I believe, is what he's talking about right here. And the ones that are meant for the inheritance, he removes the iniquities, passes over the impiety, but not to the ones that aren't inheriting, to the ungodly. His anger or gain is not constrained for a testimony, for he is a wisher, thelitis, of mercy, Elius, Kyria eleison, the eleison, Elius, comes from that. His anger it doesn't have to use his anger as a witness to prove who he is, because he says he is a wisher of mercy. God, yes, God does punish evildoers, and sometimes it's very harsh. We see in the Old Testament, God seems like God, when he had them go out and kill women and children, but yet these people were doing horrendous things, burning their children in fire, and passing these evil practices on to their children. So God did have these people annihilated by Israel, but he is a God of love in other places, and here it says he is a wisher of mercy. This is what he really wants. It's not that he wants to do the others, but he has to, but he's a wisher of mercy. In verse 19, epistrepsi ke ik tirisi imas, Katadisi tas adakias imon ke aporifisonte is tavathi tis thalasis, passes tas amartias imon. He shall turn and shall pity us. He shall sink our iniquities and shall throw away into the depths of the sea all of our sins. The vathi, we have a bathoscope as a diving chamber, and bathi is a suffix for depth. All of our sins are going to be cast into the sea, and our iniquities. He shall give birth. Dosi is aletheon to Yaakov, Elion to Avraham, kathoti homosis tis patras inimon, katatis tas imeris tas emperos. Then he shall give truth. I'm taking out the is, it's not in the Complutensian Polyglot. He shall give truth to Jacob, mercy to Abraham. Then Micah changes here, insofar as you swore by an oath. So now he's changing it, and he's talking to God and reminding him that he swore this oath to the fathers, that in the former days to Abraham and Isaac. And so we as believers today are inheritors of this oath, and even though things may get really tough here coming up with things against Israel and Christians, and who knows what can be happening as I'm going through this in February of 2009, we don't know, but it starts off with despair and ends up in hope, and so much so the whole Bible, it ends up it starts off and goes into sin, the fall of man. It ends up with a view of heaven. So this is the end of the book of Micah. We'll be going into the book of Amos next, and featuring the dative article, which I missed earlier when I did all the articles. So we hope you will join us for the next book of the Bible, and God bless.